and welcome back to the pod. This is now episode 8. I can't believe I've done 8 episodes already. That has absolutely flown by. And can you actually believe that Christmas is over with? Honestly, I say it every year, but you get to the lead up to Christmas. I get so excited. I don't know about anyone else. There might be a few Grinches out there, but I get so excited up to the lead up to it. And all that stress, and then it gets to Christmas Day and it's all just gone and done with in a flash, and it goes over so quick. And I think more than anything as well, I get so excited for the time off and just to be able to chill out and do absolutely nothing and just have no motivation whatsoever to even move off the sofa. And I absolutely love watching Christmas movies as well. I think I've watched about 5 Christmas movies over the past few days. But I don't know what anyone else's Christmas is like. I mean, I don't know whether you have the sort of Christmas where you're constantly on the go, constantly busy, seeing family and, flitting here, there and everywhere. But my Christmas, once I've dropped all of the presents off and things like that before Christmas, gets to Christmas Day, we have our Christmas dinner. The past 2 years running, we've went to a family member's house for Christmas dinner. So we've literally had Christmas dinner up there, their house. But normally what we've done, well, I think we've went out once for Christmas dinner, but usually we just spend Christmas in the house and we don't go anywhere. So we'll have Christmas dinner in the house. We'll wake up in the morning. We'll have hot beef dips for breakfast, which I know sounds really weird, but because it's Christmas, you can literally have anything. You can have chocolate for breakfast. So we'll have breakfast and then we open our presents and things like that. And then we have dinner at about 2. And then once we've had dinner, we're literally just so tired off the dinner, and maybe we'll pick throughout the day, throughout the rest of the day. And then on the night time we'll have whatever's left over, we'll have that for our picky tea and things like that. We'll just literally do nothing, lay on the sofa watching a film or whatever is on telly, but literally nothing at all. So because of that, I just absolutely lose motivation. In the past 2 days, I don't know about anyone else, but I've been really, really struggling to get my motivation back. Usually when I do something productive, so yesterday and the day before, I was planning on decluttering, making space for, new gifts and things like that. And because I don't know about anyone else, but I just have so much crap. I am a hoarder and I've come to accept that I am a hoarder. But I don't want to be a hoarder anymore. I don't want to hoard things that, I don't know. I just keep things random things that I think that I'm going to use another day, and I never end up using them, and they always just stay in the back of the drawer or the back of the cupboard, and they're just taking up space, and there's just absolutely no need for them. So that was my mission the past few days, and it literally took us 2 days to do it because, like I say, I've been just trying to get myself motivated, but I've just had no get up and go to actually do anything. So I did try on Friday. I did try to start and declutter things, but I feel like I just made more of a mess, if I'm honest. And then I just gave up because I was I have no idea where to start. Literally my mind was so cluttered. It's so weird because they always say if your space is cluttered, it clutters your mind. And it's actually true. It really is true. I don't know if it's like that for everyone, but I know it's like that for me. So usually when I declutter and I clear my space, it clears my head as well. So I did try on Friday, but like I say, only got so far. And then lost all motivation, lay down, put a film on, didn't even see said film, well, I didn't even see half of it because I fell asleep. And that's another thing. I've been so tired, and I still feel tired today. And it's not because of lack of sleep. It's because of lack of motivation. Because I'm just feeling so lazy. From Friday, I took the dog out for a walk. I took the dog to the beach. Honestly, we love going there. And it was really nice. The weather wasn't even that cold. It was a little bit, like, a tad windy. But that was it. And then yesterday, I just took him around the block. And then today, I've took him back to the beach again. It was a little bit colder. So, the wind was really cold. So when we got back in the car, I was so glad to get back in the car and just get warm. And then we've literally just went through, I went through Burger King drive-thru because I honestly couldn't be arsed. I was thinking, I'll get home and I'll cook something like what we've got in the house, be better than going through a drive-thru. And then I talked myself out of it because I just couldn't be bothered. I was like, I really can't be bothered to get in and have to cook something. And I was absolutely starving. So we went to a Burger King drive-thru, sat in Burger King car park and shared a burger. Yes, I do share food with my dog because I'm not a meanie. And we've came back and I thought, you know what? I'm going to sit down and I'm going to record my pod episode because I knew I was going to do it anyway today. I was going to do it at some point at the weekend. And so I can put it out tomorrow because I wanted to put another one out before the new year. But today I actually wanted to do an episode on reflection and setting goals. So reflection on the year that's passed. So basically it's going to be in 2 parts. Well, not in 2 parts, but there's going to be 2 parts to the episode. So the first part is reflection. So basically, it's just reflecting on how the year has gone. And I love to reflect on things because, honestly, I forget how far I've come. Sometimes it can be so easy to get wrapped up in the moment or just so easy to, get wrapped up in life, like life's chaos. And then, because life passes you by so quick and you forget to look back on the good things. So you might have a moment where it's like, say you wake up one day and you just feel like shit and you're having a bad mental health day or whatever it is. And you can suddenly spiral from those negative thoughts can make you spiral. But you actually forget how far you've come. You forget to look back on previous things that you've overcome. And, there might be certain hurdles that you have to, get over. And you might think, I can't do this. But then in the past, you actually have gotten over something similar, but you just forget about it. You forget about your previous experiences and how you handled things. So I think it's really good at the end of the year, especially this time of year, I would say, in between Christmas Day and New Year. I think it's a really good thing to reflect on the year that's passed. Reflect on things because, there's a lot of good things that have probably happened in that year that you just really have let slip through your mind. So a couple of things just to kind of help you along if you've never actually done this before, or if you just need, maybe a reminder. So a couple of things that I wrote down is, just ask yourself questions. What did you learn this year? If you learned anything, and that could even just be something. It doesn't have to mean something that, you learned like how to do something, like education. Let's put that that category there. So it doesn't have to be something like that. It could be, if you maybe had a friend, that you've been friends with for a long time and you learn, I'm just trying to think of an example here. Maybe you actually saw that person in a different light, and you learned something about that person that you didn't know before. Like, it could be something, you know, you've seen a side of that person that you actually a bit like, okay, I didn't really like that. You know what I mean? Just, I don't know, just something, for example, that you learned, or it could be something that you learned about yourself. You know, you could have learned something about yourself that you didn't know before, something that you thought you would never in a million years be able to do, but you've managed to do it. There are things that I've always said forever that I would never be able to do. I remember when I was learning how to drive, okay, and it's scary. It's scary because you are suddenly responsible for this vehicle that can, you know, kill people. I know that sounds really negative. God, it did when it came out my mouth. But you know what I mean. You're responsible for that vehicle, okay? And, you know, when you're driving a car or a vehicle or whatever, you have to take care and you've got loads of things to remember. So obviously it's a crazy time when you're learning how to drive. It can be really, you know, overwhelming. And I know it was for me. But I remember when I was learning how to drive, okay, and I always said to my driving instructor, I will never, ever, ever drive in the snow. Never, ever. When it's snowing or when it's icy, I will never drive in the snow in those weather conditions. And he was like, well, why? And I was like, because I just don't want to. It's not something I want to do. Like, thinking about it back then, I was like, no way. Because obviously I've heard and I've seen like how it can be for people driving in those weather conditions. Like, you can skid all over the road. It just wasn't happening. And I was like, I'm absolutely not doing it. And I was so adamant. And he was like, I always remember him saying, you know, when I passed my test, and he was like, if you need us to help, you know, if it does, you know, for those weather conditions, if you change your mind and you want to learn how to drive in those weather conditions, just give us a message and I'll help. And I was like, okay, thank you. But I was adamant that I was never going to do it. And then I don't think I'd been past my test long. I think I passed my test in September. And I think it might have been the November. I woke up in the morning to go to work and the weather was really bad. Like, it had been snowing and it was icy and everything like that. And I always remember my mum coming in my bedroom on the morning. And this was probably about 4:30 in the morning. And she was like, oh, it's really bad out there. Like, I would just ring a taxi. And bearing in mind, it was like £10 to get a taxi to work and then £10 back. And I was like, my stubborn mindset kicked in and I was like, no, absolutely not. I'm not paying for a taxi when I've got a car out there and I can drive. I'll be absolutely fine. And obviously I was shitting myself, like, because I'd never drove in the snow before. And I always remember at work the previous day, I was talking about it and they were all just like, just take your time. You'll be absolutely fine. Like, if anyone gets like too far behind you, don't worry about them. You just drive at your own pace. And I always remember them telling us that. And I was just like, right, okay. And I was like, I'm absolutely not paying for a taxi when I've got a car there and I've got the ability to drive. So I was totally adamant in one sense when I was like driving, when I was learning to drive, totally adamant that I was never going to drive in the snow in those conditions. And then when it actually came down to it, I was like, well, I can drive. I know I can drive. So there's like one part out of the equation. I just need to drive carefully and take my time. So I always remember, I laugh back at this now. I got in my car and when you come out of my street, it's like, it's a bit downhill. It's not too steep of a hill, but it's like a little bit hilly. So I remember driving down the street and I don't know how many miles an hour I was going, but it wasn't very many. And I had no radio on at all, no music on at all, because I was like, that's how I concentrate. So I'm driving down the street, like really carefully, and I'm talking to myself the whole way. Literally must look like a mad woman to anybody else looking, because no one else was in the car with us, it was just me. And I remember I got to the bottom of the street and I actually skidded a little bit. And I remember going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Like actually screaming out loud to myself. And I was like, and I stopped and I was like, right, you're okay. You're okay. Let's just get back into gear. Turn the car back on, because I think I stalled at this point. Turn the car back on. You'll be absolutely... And this is how I was talking to myself all the way to work. I mean, work was only, I would say on a normal day, in normal weather conditions, 10 minutes away. But I left super early this morning because I knew that it was going to take us time to get there. And I drove, like, obviously I drove more than 2 miles an hour. But I drove, like, at my own pace, like they told me to. I didn't let anybody bully me into going faster. But I literally talked to myself the whole way. And then I got to work, and I swear to God, I could have kissed the ground. I got out of the car and I got into work, and I was like, oh my God, I was shaking. But do you know what? I did it. And it's something I said I was never going to do. And I did it. 2 months, not even 2 months after passing my test. So there might be something that you have done and you've thought, oh, hold on a second. I always said that I would never do that. But then it's came to it and you've thought, like, you've changed your mind and you've thought, do you know what? I'm actually going to give that a go. I'm actually going to do it. And those are achievements in themselves, because it's something that the old you said that you weren't going to do, but you actually did it and you achieved it. And in that moment, after you've done it, you do get so, like, you're so proud of yourself for doing it, because it's something that you really didn't imagine yourself ever doing. And that was something that I never imagined myself doing. So now I know that when those weather conditions come about and they happen, when it happens, I'm actually not as scared as what I was the first time. Yeah, okay, I'm a little bit like, okay. But all I remember is I just have to take my time and go at my own pace and I'll be absolutely fine. And it's something that, it's an achievement for me, because again, it's something I said I would never do. But you literally, you can surprise yourself. So that could be something that you've achieved, and it could also be something that you've learned. You've actually learned that you can do it. You know, you can do things, even if you say you're not going to do them, even if you say you're never going to try. You've learned that about yourself, that you can actually do things and you can overcome your fear as well. So that's 2 in 1. That can be what you've learned and actually what you've achieved as well. And then the next thing is things that you're grateful for. So, I mean, I always in my journals, I always do my gratitude list, always. I've just got a new gratitude journal for Christmas, and I absolutely love it, because it's got literally a list of 5 things that I'm grateful for. And I might not fill those 5 every single day. Sometimes I might only have 2 or 3, you know, what you can think of off the top of your head. But that's okay, as long as you write something down. And, you know, sometimes it might be, I might put one thing on the list every single day that's the same. You know, you could say you're grateful for your family, you know. Sometimes I think of things, like I try and think outside of the box. But it's okay if that's all you can think of in that moment. So, literally, things that you are grateful for. And writing down things that you're grateful for, okay, that creates abundance in your life. Like, that does create abundance, because even if you are trying to change your life and you're trying to gain success in a certain area, that will help you along the way. And the next one was, what I wrote down was, did my priorities change? So we change all the time. We always evolve. We're always evolving, okay? And sometimes you might have certain priorities and you might think, okay, these are my priorities. This is what I want, you know, in life. This is what I'm going to prioritize and work on. But then, say 6 months later, you might change your mind and you might think, okay, actually, that's not really a priority right now. This is a priority. Your priorities change all the time. So you could write down, you know, did my priorities change? And then if so, if they did, why did they change? So you could reflect on why you stopped prioritizing a certain thing, it could be a person, why you stopped prioritizing a certain person, why it changed. And then another thing, another little like note that I wrote down. If all you did this year was survive, that's okay. You can use that to remind yourself that you can get through anything. And if you can get through anything, you can change your life in so many ways. I know that life can be tough sometimes. And I wrote this part down simply because I remember going back to before I started personal development, before my mindset shifted, back to when I was in a negative mindset. All I was doing was surviving, because all I was thinking about is just getting from one day to the next. And when you are suffering, you know, when you do have anxiety or depression or whatever other, you know, thing you might have going on, that is all you're thinking about, is just getting yourself from one day to the next without breaking down. And that's fine. That's okay. If that's all you did this year was just make sure that you got yourself from one day to the next, hey, that's an achievement in itself. Because some days can be really, really tough. And some days you can feel like just giving up on everything. And it's really, really, it really is an achievement in itself if you stopped yourself from giving up, if you just kept going, because that's what you need to do. You need to just keep going. But if you're in a mindset right now where you're absolutely sick, because this is how I felt, and I think this is why I took the leap into network marketing, and I'm so glad I did. But if you're in this mindset of you are sick of just surviving, you know, you're tired, because it is exhausting. It's really exhausting, because you've got to remember you're fighting against something that you can't see. You're fighting against your mind, and it's you versus your mind every single day. It's you versus that little voice in your head that's telling you that you're not enough, or you're not worth anything, that nobody likes you. You know, your life's just going to amount to nothing. You're a failure. It's all of those little words, like that little voice fills your head with. You are constantly fighting with all of that. And it can be really tough, and it can be really tiring. So if you did just get through this year, you know, all you did was survive, then I'm really proud of you for that, because I know how hard it is. But if you are at that point right now where you are just sick and tired of just surviving, you're just sick of it, and you want to start the year ahead off by actually living, then the next part is setting some goals. And I know it can sound really scary, setting goals, because you might be sitting thinking, oh, but what if I don't achieve them? So for someone that has spent most of their life just surviving, okay, what I want you to do when you set these goals for yourself, don't set your goals high. And what I mean by that is, do not sit there and go, I don't know, I'm going to buy myself a big house. Like, don't, make sure your goals actually fit in with reality, with what you can achieve. So what I mean is, start off small. Don't set your goals too big that you can't even reach your goals. And that's not me putting anyone down and saying you can't achieve big goals, because you can. But if you're still in that survival mindset, then you're probably not going to have the mindset to achieve massive goals yet. You will eventually, but what you need to do first is you need to build your mindset. You need to shift your mindset into a positive state rather than a negative or just survival state, in order to build your goals up. higher. So initially, what you want to do is you want to start off small. And like I say, do not put too much pressure on yourself with this, okay? So if you only set 3 goals for next year, that's absolutely fine. You do not need to have a boatload of goals that you need to achieve. And again, I know I've spoke about the vision board in my past episode, my previous episode. If you don't know how to create a vision board and you don't want to create a vision board, you don't have to do that to set goals. You could just write a list. And if you are just going to write a list, what you're probably better off doing is write one goal, and then underneath, what you're going to do is you're going to write a plan on how to achieve that goal. Because you can't just set goals and say, right, okay, I'm going to do this, and then not write a plan or not plan it out on how you're going to get there. Because I could say, okay, in the next 6 months, I'm going to buy myself a massive big house. But then I'm just leaving it at that. But then I'm thinking, well, how am I going to get there? How am I going to get to that point where I can buy that massive big house? You know what I mean? You need to plan it out. And when you plan it out, it means that the vision is clearer. It's clear in your mindset. It's clear in your mind. So, okay, so one thing that you could start off with is if this is a thing that you want to, something that you want to do in 2025, you could say to yourself, I want to gain more confidence. Okay? So what steps are you going to be able to take to gain more confidence? It could be learning how to spend time on your own, going for a drive on your own. If you've got a dog, taking the dog for a walk by yourself, and then maybe you could build that up to going into somewhere for a coffee by yourself with the dog. That's what I do, and that's what I did to gain my confidence. I started spending more time on my own, and I've done a previous episode on this. If you haven't already listened to it, that would be a good episode for you to listen to if this is something that you wanted to achieve in 2025. So I used to always wait on people, on people being free to make plans and go do stuff with other people. And I'd always have to have someone there with me. But then I changed that and I actually built my confidence up. So now I can even go shopping by myself. And at one point I would never do that. Whilst I am shopping, I can then go somewhere and sit down and have something to eat by myself. And I'm not sitting there thinking, worrying about what other people are thinking about me, because I actually don't care. I'm very content with it now. And don't get us wrong, sometimes if I haven't done it for a while, I get a little bit anxious. That anxiety voice does kick in a little bit, but I just push it to the side and I still do it because I know that I can and I know I've done it before and I've been absolutely fine. The world hasn't ended. So that could be something that you could set for yourself as well. If you are someone that wants to go big or go home, if maybe you want to change your life, maybe you want to change your career, maybe you could start by setting a goal to change your job. Now, I had a really, really, really good therapist during COVID. So during COVID, I was struggling. I was on an antidepressant. Well, they were antidepressants, but they were more for anxiety. And I also went to see this therapist. And at the time, she was only training. And she was actually the best therapist that I'd ever had. Not knocking all of my previous ones because they did, they were good, but she was the best. And I honestly always say to this day, she is the person, I feel like she's the therapist that actually got through and broke the mold sort of thing. She cracked something, she unlocked something in me that I didn't think was possible. But she always told me, because I know back then I still worked in the factory. I'm sorry if you can hear that motorbike, it's really loud. So back then I was working in the factory, and I obviously was miserable and I wasn't happy with my job. I absolutely hated my job, but I was scared of change, and that's why I just stayed in that job. That's really annoying, sorry. Someone's literally outside. I don't know what they're doing, if they're revving their motorbike or something, but it's absolutely annoying. Anyway, so yeah, she said something to me that it sticks in my mind still to this day, and I can't forget it. So she said, you may not be where you want to be right now, okay? She was like, but you need to see everything as a stepping stone to get to where you want to be. And I'd never actually thought about it before like that. So literally every job after that one, when I look back at it now, every single job that I've had after then, it's always been an upgrade. So from that factory, I went into another factory, but it was a different kind of factory. And actually, I was happy there. I was happy. But it's not even just about the job, okay? So hear me out, because it'll make sense. It's not even just about the job. So I stayed at that factory job for 5 years, okay? And then the plant closed down, okay? So that was a sign, I believe, from the universe pushing me, kicking my arse to be like, move it, change your job because you're not happy. And then I got a job in another factory, and I was absolutely shitting myself, but I learned something. Moving jobs, changing jobs, I learned something. I learned that I could deal with change. And I learned that I could meet new people and I could settle quickly, because I did. I've spoke about this. I think it was on my first ever episode about change. And I actually surprised myself, and I really clicked with, the people that I worked with, and I was quite happy there. Then I moved to another job because they didn't have the hours. Moved to another job, again, settled really quickly. Learn again. I showed myself that I could do it and I could deal with change. Now, all of this probably happened within a year. And I always told myself that change was scary, and that's why I never left my job, the job that I hated. That's why I made myself feel like I was stuck and I was never ever going anywhere in life, and I was just going to spend the rest of my life working a shitty job that I absolutely hated, and I was going to be miserable for the rest of my life, because that's how I thought. But the universe was like, absolutely not, this is not happening. So obviously during COVID, had that therapist, and when she told me that, it was like, I don't know, it was like something, like a light bulb went off in my mind. And every single time something in my life changes, I think back to that, to what she said, because she was absolutely right. Everything in life is a stepping stone. You just don't see it, because you don't think about it like that. If you don't have that mindset, you're not going to think about it like that. But if you look back at everything, whether you've had a million job changes, or I don't know, it doesn't even have to be your job changing. It could be just circumstances changing in your life, experiences, just different things. If you think about it, they're all stepping stones to get to where you need to be or where you want to be in life. Everything is a stepping stone. And sometimes in life, you might have certain moments or situations where you feel like you've gone back on yourself and you've took 5 steps back. But that might just be because you needed to go back to actually relearn something in order to push yourself forward. You've got to think of life as a stepping stone, because it really, really is. And now, So I got myself out of the factory industry and I worked in an office, still in a factory, but it was in an office. So still a little bit of an upgrade, something new. And now I work on the phones and I work from home, and, you know, and I just think like my job now, it's a complete upgrade to where I started off, to where I am now. And also not just my job, like my mindset, my life, it's completely changed. I started working in that factory in 2015. And from 2015 to now, 10 years, because 2025 is upon us, 10 years, that's how much my life has changed. And I'm really, really happy that it has, because I was miserable, so miserable. So when you think that, if you think you can't do something, you know, if you're in a job right now where you are miserable, like I was, and you think, I can't stay here forever, like this is just not it, but I'm scared to leave, I'm scared to change, just do it. You'll really, really surprise yourself. And honestly, if you're that miserable, you'll push yourself to do it. You really will. Because there's only so much one person can take before they actually crack. I always say that. And you'll get so sick, you'll push yourself to do it. It's like when your house is a mess and you don't have the motivation to clean it up. You will have the motivation at some point to clean it, because you'll get so sick of the mess and not being able to find anything that you get like, I don't know, your brain just like screams at you and is like, come on, I'm sick of this mess. And you start cleaning up and then it's done. I know that was probably a shit analogy, what I've just used, example even, but that's exactly how I think. And it was the only example that I could really think of. But yes, so if that's something you want to do, you know, if you're sick of your job or whatever right now, and you know you're in a moment of like, you know, I can't keep doing this, like another year of this job is going to break me, then put that on your goal list. Put it on your goal list. Even if you know, you don't have to make a massive change. I didn't make a massive change. I wanted to get out of factory work. I did. And I know I ended up staying in factory work after that first initial, you know, job. It wasn't my first ever job, but you know what I mean. So, but I was slowly moving up. So the fourth place that I worked in, you know, after 2015, after working in there for 5 years, it was still a factory, but it was an office in a factory. So it was kind of like, now that I look back on it, I think, oh yeah, okay, that I was upgrading, because even though I was still in a factory, I was in an office. Like I wasn't actually doing the, you know, the factory work, like all of that, like what I was doing before. And it was a bit bizarre, because I was so used to doing factory work that I was like, oh, okay. And it was even weird for me, different, like what to wear. I was panicking about what to wear, because I was like, I've always just wore leggings and a t-shirt. And that's it, because that's in factories, unless you've got a uniform. But even in the factory that I worked in, the envelope factory I worked in after the second job, we had uniforms, like we had a t-shirt, like a top with the company name and that on, but you didn't have to wear it if you didn't want to. You could go in there in your old, you know, your own clothes, which I did when I first started. And then I started wearing the t-shirts because, you know, I was like, why am I getting my own clothes mangy when I can get their clothes dirty? But it honestly, when I look back now and I think, like, God, my life was upgrading. Like, I was getting what I wanted to get. You know, I was always like, oh, okay, I don't want to work in factory work anymore. I want to do this. And I took that leap. And that's all it took. I took that leap. And then from there, you know, got sick of that job. And I moved again. And I took an even bigger leap. And I've always been upgrading. And it's like, in the moment, I never knew it. until I sit down and I look back. And every single time I move job, not that I'm money motivated, because I'm absolutely not. Like, I would rather be happy in a job than, it be like, oh, it's more money, it's more. I know some people moved, or I've seen it. Some people will change their job just because of the amount of money. And I get it. People have got bills to pay and shit and what have you. I get that. But for me, personally, if, say, there was one job that was going to pay me, I don't know, £11 an hour, right? And that job, I didn't mind that job and I was quite happy in that job. And then there was another job that said, another company that said, okay, we're going to pay you £15 an hour, but that job made me miserable. I would stick with the £11 an hour. I'm not money motivated. I am, what's the word? Mindset motivated? I don't know. I prefer to be happy. But when I look back, when I actually reflect on all of the jobs, each time, my job's been changing, but the salary has also been changing as well. So the job that I'm at now, I am actually on a lot more money than I ever have been. So that in itself is good. But again, it's not something that I focused on. I wasn't bothered about the salary. I was more bothered about, will I be happy in that job? And, like I say, I don't mind it. It's not what I want to do forever, but it's fine for now. But yeah, rambling again. But if you think about it that way, if you are scared to take that leap, then that is something that you can, kind of think about my experience and things like that. And yes, it's scary. I'm not going to lie to you. It's really not, it's not something that I just went into with, kind of like the mindset of, oh yeah, this is fine, all sunflowers and rainbows. No. I was shitting my pants the first day, especially. But, it's fine. You get over that part and then you settle in. It happens everywhere. But that could be a goal for you to set, if you are someone that wants to set big goals. But again, like I say, if you are someone that's never done this before, and you are just one of those people that are just kind of dipping your feet in the water, sort of say, and you've just spent your life in survival mode, and you are wanting to start actually living rather than just surviving, then I feel like this is the time to do it. Any time is good to do it. You don't even have to wait until the new year. You could do it tomorrow, start tomorrow. But if you do, want to kind of set that intention, then I think it is, again, like I say, it's a good thing to write down your goals, but also write an action plan for that goal. So every single goal you have, you'll be clear on what you need to do, rather than setting a goal and going, right, okay, I want that to happen. Because setting goals, it's not, you can't just set the goal for yourself or write a list of goals down and then that's it and think, oh, all of those things are going to happen, because they're not going to happen unless you commit to them. So you have to commit to them. So it's like, if you say, okay, I want to be fitter in 2025, I want to lose weight, but you don't actually commit to doing anything to help yourself lose weight, you don't commit to doing exercise or things like that, or, you still stay in the same unhealthy habits that you have been for the past 5 years, you're not going to achieve that goal. You have to be realistic with yourself. You have to commit to these goals. And if it's a case of that you think, right, okay, I want to set goals for myself, but I've got a very busy life, then have a think about why your life's so busy, okay? Is there anything that you can change? Is there anything that you actually don't need to have in your schedule? And you could swap that out to commit to a goal that you want to achieve in 2025. This is how I set goals and this is how I achieve them. So if you are just chilling between Christmas and New Year, and you're in that limbo sort of thing, and you've got nothing else to sort of do, this could be a fun thing. This could be a fun little project for you to do. If you're not going back to work till after the New Year, or even if you don't do anything on New Year's Eve. I know, I'm not really doing anything for New Year's Eve. So I am going to set my goals out. I've already done my vision board, so I know what goals I want to achieve, but I need to set my action plan. So what I'm going to be doing to actually achieve those goals. And I'll probably do that on New Year's Eve, because like I say, I'm not doing anything other than having a little bit of a drink. So yeah, that is today's episode. And I actually really enjoyed talking about all of that. I knew that I had it in my head. I had it all planned out what I wanted to speak about. But I feel like that was a really good episode to do in between Christmas and New Year, because I love setting goals and reflecting. But I really hope that helped you, and I hope you enjoyed that. And I really hope it's actually helped some of you, set clear intentions on what you want to do. You might have been listening to the episode and thinking, actually, there's something that I've really been putting off and that I want to do, and you might have wrote that down. So yeah, I hope you've really enjoyed it. And I hope you all have a happy new year, whatever you're doing. If you're actually having a party, or you're going to a party, or even if you are just sitting chilling in the house like I am, doing a vision board or writing a list of goals. But I hope you enjoy whatever you're doing. But I will speak to you in the new year. Goodbye, guys.